So I have a question for you all today. Is killing, and hell, by extension, murder wrong in every single imaginable situation that you can think of? Because instinctually, most of you are probably gonna say, hell, yes, killing, and by extension murder, is wrong in almost every single case that I could think of. And while you would most likely be speaking from your own instincts and your own emotions, and while yes, those can get you very far in life, they aren't always correct, as most of you are probably seen, especially in cases with other people. And so, to showcase this, I wanted to analyze an episode of what was once one of the most popular TV series of all time, AMC's The Walking Dead. Specifically, I wanted to go over an instance, something that happens in episode 3 of season 2 of The Walking Dead. Now, most of you who have clicked on this video probably already know what happens in the episode and probably know most of the context. But let's give a quick recap so that everyone can be on board about everything, all the variables and so forth. So, what happens? Or at least what happens before that? What happened is that a few episodes before, Carl, who is Rick's son, the protagonist, by this point at least, he got shot.
You're an idiot.
And he, well, is about to fucking die because he's got 6 bullet fragments in his abdomen, and unless those are cleared out, he's gonna lose blood and die. So the only option for him is to get treated by the farm's local doctor, Herschel. However, Herschel can't perform any surgery on him because he doesn't have the surgical supplies. And if he performs the surgery without those supplies, Carl has an equally big chance of dying anyhow. So they need the surgical supplies.
You need a respirator. What else?
The tube that goes with it, extra surgical supplies, drapes, sutures.
If you had all that, you could save him.
If I had all that, I could try.
Now, the question arises, how did they get them? Well, there was a school nearby who had all the surgical supplies that they needed. Problem is, that school was overrun by walkers. And so, Shane, who is Rick's right-hand man by this point, offers himself to go. Otis, who was the guy who shot Carl in the first place, accidentally, also offers to go. And well, he has to go since he's the only one who knows what the supplies look like, and he probably knows the local area better than most of the people who were there at the farm. So Shane and Otis go. Now, the operation at first goes pretty smoothly. They get all of the supplies that they need, essentially. However, the problem arises when they need to get out, because they start to get surrounded by walkers.
In the athletic fields. We just need enough time. We gotta get up there.
And what happens is that they split up, try to get away, distract the walkers, whatever, and they do eventually get back together. Slight problem though. Shane by this point has a limping leg, and he's going very slow. Why? Because he just jumped out of a 20-meter tall building. And while he doesn't have extremely severe leg injuries, like he doesn't have like a broken kneecap or anything, he's still limping and he still has quite a bad injury. So Shane by this point is going at the pace of an average Romanian BMW driver. Meanwhile, Otis is 3 rhinos heavier than Shane, so he's also not going pretty fast. Now, visualize this, because I'm going to put this on screen, right? You can see it in the background. There is a horde of probably 100 walkers going after these two. Now, the actual problem is that since these two are going very slowly, the walkers are trying to catch up to them. Again, the walkers are still slow by this point, but it doesn't really matter if the two of you, if Shane and Otis, are going equally, if not slower than them. And so, an issue arises. If they both die, the operation won't matter and Carl's gonna die anyway. So Shane by this point thinks, well, one of us has to stay behind to distract the walkers so that the other could get away. So he first offers himself to stay behind in the rear and distract the walkers. Otis refuses, says, we're gonna die together, bro.
I ain't leaving you behind.
Oh my, I'm not leaving you behind. And so Shane's like, so Shane, as a response, shoots him in the kneecap and leaves him behind for the walkers. And what happens is Shane gets away, he gets the supplies back to the camp, and Carl does actually go on to live for another 6 seasons. But Otis, regardless, is still dead by this point. So the question arises, was Shane right to do this? Was Shane right to kneecap Otis and kill him? In my opinion, I think he was right. And to understand why, let's first understand the stakes at here. So there are actually multiple, but let's start off with the obvious. What can you see right in front of you? Well, what's at stake right in front of you? Shane and Otis's lives. This is the first thing that pops up into your mind, obviously. Now, what's the second thing that pops into your mind? Now, if you know the context, obviously, Carl's life. Because while you don't see this fully on screen at that particular moment, you know that they're both there to get the surgical supplies back to Carl so that he can live another day, or at least have a better chance of living. These are the first two things that are pretty obvious. What isn't fully obvious, though, is, well, it goes beyond that. Because those two are not the only things. Lori, for example. Because Lori is important because she's the mother of Carl. And the reason I'm bringing up Lori is also another reason beyond that. The thing with Lori is that while she was grieving about the fact that her child could possibly die, she had a private talk with Rick in which she flat out said, well, what if it's better for Carl to die?
Carl is here in this world now.
Maybe he shouldn't be. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be.
Like, genuinely, just think about this. The world in which Carl has to live is one of brutal suffering. Every moment of every day, as she put it, or as she thought, every moment of every day, he's gonna have to live with the fear of being eaten alive by walking corpses, by the corpses of the people who could have been his friends. Every moment of every day, of every other day, he's going to be probably starving. He's not even gonna know when his next meal is. This is a brutal world. And this is not a world in which she could imagine living. So she thinks by this point, what if it's better if Carl doesn't live in it anyhow, at all? These are the thoughts that are going through her head right now. And, well, it's not impossible to think that she could apply those thoughts to herself. Because, no, wouldn't it be better for Lori if she didn't have to live in this world? Because these thoughts came from her friend Jackie, right? Who opted to not live with Jenna. So it's very possible, in my opinion, actually extremely possible, that if Carl were actually to die, that Lori would start thinking, well, why do I have to live through this? Why do I keep going on in this life where my son got shot and he's dead a few months into the apocalypse? For the first 2 months, I didn't even know if my own husband was alive. Now, he still magically came back, but my son is still dead. My husband is going on runs every other day, and I don't know if he'll come back alive. What is truly the point? She's just living just to suffer. As she put it herself, the only thing that kept her going by this point were the memories of the past life that she had.
Memories are what keep me going now. Memories of what life used to be.
So if Carl were genuinely to just die, cease existing, just gets completely game-baited by a retard who didn't realize there was a child beyond the deer, I don't think it's that impossible, or at least that implausible to think that she could have probably, most likely actually, killed herself in return. And if Lori dies, well, even bigger issue for Rick. Because, well, going back to season 3, how does Rick deal with the death of his wife then? Because I think we can all agree that by season 3, Rick is a much emotionally stronger and battle-hardened person than he was in season 2. And in season 3, when we think of Rick typically as this battle-hardened survivor who knows his shit, knows how to get shit done, by then when his wife dies, he goes into a mental breakdown for a season and a half. And he's strong by this point. In season 2, when he's not this strong emotionally, it doesn't give me the best of vibes. And I don't think it gives anyone the best of vibes. Because he probably would have needed, at the very least, as much time, if not even more time, to get over it. And this is not a time where he can just sit back, right? Because by this point, or at least before, they were heading to Fort Bend. Now, they did find this farm, but Herschel is not keen on letting these guys live at the farm indefinitely. He's not gonna want to just let them rest over here for as long as they want. So, if Rick's not around to assume a leadership position and at least try to convince Herschel to let them stay, who's gonna assume the leadership position? Remember, if Carl dies because he doesn't get the surgical supplies, this means that both Otis and Shane are dead. So Shane's not gonna step up. He's not gonna magically take over the farm and lead everyone over to safety. So Shane's out. The other possible options, we'll think back to season 3 of what the options were when Rick was gone as a leader. Daryl first stepped up and got closer to the members of the group.
You like that? Huh? Little ass kicker? Right? Well, that's a good name, right?
But would that really happen in this case? Because Daryl by this point is still mostly closed off. He doesn't have any close relationships to hell anyone. His relationship to Rick is just one of that of mutual respect, and the friendship he has with Carol is kind of tenuous because, as you can see, there are multiple scenes in season 2 where Daryl just tells Carol to fuck off.
I'm not gonna let you pull away. You've earned your place.
You spend half your time minding your daughter's business instead of sticking your nose in everybody else's, she'd still be alive. Just go. I don't want you here. You're afraid. You're afraid because you're all alone. You got no husband, no daughter. You don't know what to do with yourself. All you gotta do is keep an eye on her.
Screw around?
Daryl is not gonna be in the picture of a leadership position, right? Could also be Glenn, right? Because Glenn in season 3 tried the same thing, but the Glenn in season 3 is extremely different from the Glenn in season 2. Because the Glenn in season 2 is not yet that confident, battle-hardened survivor who has went through probably more than a year of surviving on the road. He's still that kind of...
I would never have sex.
I'll have sex with you.
Really?
No one's really taking him extremely seriously by this point. And while Rick is still thankful that Glenn saved his life, he is not ready to assume a leadership position. And no one's going to take him extremely seriously if he does try to take a leadership position. So, Daryl and Glenn are out. Shane is dead. Rick is incapable of leading the group. Who else? I don't think Carol is going to assume a leadership position because she doesn't have a strong friendship with anyone at this point. Her whole family's dead. Maggie's going to stay with her dad on the farm. Herschel's going to kick the group out of the farm. And whoever is left in the group, like Glenn, maybe Daryl if he doesn't just run off. Carol and I don't know, nothing. Actually, probably these guys are probably the only ones who are still left in the group by this point because no other name is coming up in my mind. Whoever is left of the group has to go back on the road because they're not gonna fight Herschel over the farm because there isn't a Shane to launch a war to get the fucking farm back, and there's no Rick to negotiate with Herschel for them to stay on the farm. So they're gonna have to go back on the road. And we'll just picture this, right? These guys have went on the road to Fort Benning. And they're most likely gonna keep going to Fort Benning, right? That's the only viable place that they know of that could be safe. They're gonna try to go to Fort Benning, which is 100 miles away. These few miles that they have traversed have resulted in Sophia being at least gone as far as they're concerned. But as we know, she's dead. Carl is dead. Lori is probably dead by this point. Rick, kind of a walking corpse by this point. Daryl maybe ran off. He'll be lucky if he's still with the group. Glenn is there, but he's kind of just cannon fodder. He's not really that confident in himself at this point. And there's Carol as well. Like, this is not that strong of a group. And they're also not that strongly interconnected. So, what are they gonna do? Like, again, they could keep going. But this one roadblock, only a few miles in, pretty much devastated the group. There are 100 more miles. There are numerous more roadblocks that could come along the way. It is extremely improbable to think that they're just gonna get to Fort Benning in one piece with no hordes along the way, no raiders along the way, no one to come stealing their shit along the way. If one more incident like this occurs, it could very well be the death of the group. So, all in all, after 10 minutes of rambling, this is what is at stake. It's not just Shane, Otis, and Carl. It's pretty much the entire group, and this like in absolute terms. Obviously, I don't think Shane was thinking about this like at that point when he shot Otis. What he had in mind is probably his life, Otis's life, and Carl's life, and probably Lori's as well. That's probably all that he had in mind at this point. But regardless, in absolute terms, this is what was at stake. This is how important Shane's decision, that split moment decision, was. And so, let's go back to the situation, right? Because we finally know what's at stake. Let's go back to the situation. Shane and Otis are slow as fuck. Walkers are catching up to them. Again, we don't have like the exact speed and trajectory of the walkers, so I can't do like physics calculation over here to see exactly if they could have gotten first to the truck without it getting overrun or without them being overrun by the walkers. So like, sure, I don't have 100% verifiable proof that they could have gotten away from the walkers, but regardless of that, Shane wasn't thinking of that. No one was going to be thinking of that in his position when you only have a few moments to think about what's going to happen next and what you need to do next in order to survive. No one's going to stand there for 2 hours doing physics calculations. You are like Shane, a human, which cannot calculate shit that fast, and which only has a few moments to make a split decision in order to save yourself, the guy, maybe if you're lucky, that guy next to you, the son that you've been protecting for 2 months, well, not your son, truth be told, but a child that you view as your own son, and God knows how many other people. So, how much time do you have to think? You don't have time to think. You're on an adrenaline rush, and you only have mere seconds before walkers catch up to you. So in this fucking situation, the only thing that Shane's gonna do is the first thing that pops up in his mind. And the first thing that pops up in his mind is for one of them to get left behind or cover the rear to act as a sort of distraction for the walkers so that the other guy could get away. And hell, Shane offers himself first. Shane offers himself to cover the rear and serve as bait so that Otis can get his surgical supplies back to camp. And Otis says, nah, man, I ain't leaving you behind. And Shane's like,
You're an idiot.
Shane only has a few moments to think. And hell, even now, after I've had hours to think about, or even hours to think about this, I still don't see a much better solution than the one he came up with. And so, all in all, was Shane's decision really that wrong? Because at the end of it, let's compare the worlds as well, right? Let's say Shane doesn't shoot Otis in the kneecap. Let's say they keep trying to just march along slowly over to the truck. What's most likely gonna happen? What's most likely, 90% chance going to happen, is that either the walkers catch up to them and eat them alive, or they catch up to the truck while Shane and Otis are in the truck and they overrun the truck, so they also can't escape. And in both instances, Shane and Otis die and get eaten alive. Carl doesn't get his surgical supplies, and the operation most likely fails, and he dies. And as I've explained before, the entire group goes along with it. Probably. But at the very least, Shane and Otis are dead, and Carl is also dead. Now, let's say Shane does shoot Otis in the kneecap. What happens then is that, well, yes, Otis is still dead. He still gets eaten alive by walkers. But now, Shane is still alive, and he also gets the surgical supplies back to camp. So now Carl also lives. Lori doesn't kill herself by this point. No shot of her killing herself because she still has something to live for. Rick doesn't have a mental breakdown. He still assumes the leadership position, and everyone is still alive. Truth be told. Really, if you compare these two worlds as they are, you can see that the world in which Shane shoots Otis in the kneecap is just objectively a better one. It's not even an issue of prioritization. Like in one scenario, Otis could die but Carl lives, or Otis could live but Carl could die. It's not even an issue of prioritization because Otis dies anyway. The same people will die anyway, but other people can get saved. So it's extremely easy to see which scenario is just better than the other one. And this reason is why I think that Shane shooting Otis in the kneecap by this point was the right decision. I've said everything that I need to say by this point, so again, if you have like any other ideas on how Shane could have maybe even saved Otis as well, and not just Carl himself by that point, like, I genuinely love to hear it. Like, tell me about it in the comments down below or something. I genuinely want to hear it if you have any more ideas. Again, that was it from me. That was all I could say by this point, and that is what I think. So thanks a lot for going through with me on everything I've said so far. Thanks for listening. And thanks for watching. I'll probably make another video about whether Shane was right to keep his secret of killing Otis from the rest of the group, probably quite soon actually. So you can stick around for that probably. So again, thanks for watching, and I don't know, smash that subscribe button, like the video, turn on notifications, and please, I need more views and more money from you. And thanks so much for watching. See you later.